Hello, hello. Welcome on in. Happy Friday. And happy December. It's December 1st? Yes. Yes, it is. Meaning this is the beginning of Live Mess on the Miscellaneous channel. We will be streaming here every Monday night, every Friday night for the month of December. We'll see how holidays play out and everything. Might miss one here and there, but I'm trying to be consistent and trying to be in one place at the same time every time, and do just fun things for every time. So welcome on in. Today I want to talk about the Golden Bachelor and the finale that happened last night, because I was a little bit shook by what went on. I don't know about y'all, but hold on, I need to take a picture of something here. I'm troubleshooting one random live stream thing. I like to give it a second too for people. Excuse that. But yeah, lots of interesting things on the Golden Bachelor. We will be getting into this article that came out, exposing Gerry. And we can read it together after we talk a little bit about the finale and the outcomes. But that kind of shook up the Golden Bachelor fandom this week, I feel like, and it was definitely very interesting. I don't totally know how I feel about it. If anyone's here, we can just experience it together and talk through it. But it was kind of surprising. It was kind of an expose. Well, welcome to Live Miss. I'm excited to have y'all here, or if you're watching in the future, happy with that too. Let's roll the intro. Maybe I should have gotten a Christmassy intro. I meant to make one, but then I got so busy this week. I went and saw, I don't know if any of y'all have listened to the I've Had It podcast, but I love that podcast, and they had a show here in Austin, and we went, but it was a Tuesday night, so it kind of threw off my whole week. So it's just been kind of a busy week, and then I streamed on Monday, so already feeling the Monday, Friday regular streaming, but it's been fun, and I'm excited for next Monday's stream, which is now I think is a good time to remind y'all. Monday at this time, December 4th, I will be talking about my Spotify Wrapped and just this year in music in general, kind of from my perspective, but I'm also asking y'all to send in your Spotify Wraps to me. A lot of my friends send me theirs, and there's always memes every year about who cares about your Spotify Wrapped, and it's I care, and a lot of people care, to be honest. Or your Apple Music or whatever you use, or even if you just like music and you know your own top artists and songs of the year. I would love to hear that. I would love to talk about it with more people and not just talk about my Wrapped, because it's not that interesting. But yeah, if you're interested, you can send me your Wraps and songs or artists or whatever at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter mostly. I think those are the only places. But yeah, send those in and come through on Monday. It's a fun way to spice up a Monday evening, I guess. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. Really helps me out. But let's go ahead and get into what we're here for today, and that is talking about the Golden Bachelor finale. There will be spoilers, and so sorry that this came out so soon after the episode, because I noticed today the Hulu episode took way later than usual to come out. It came out at like noon or 1 p.m. So if y'all are someone that watches on demand on Hulu, that might have been a little tricky today, but there was still a little bit of time. And then I feel like if I wait too long, everyone's over it. So I like to do these finale chats right after they happen. But let's talk about Gerry and the Golden Bachelor. It has been quite a journey. I've really enjoyed the season, but this ending was kind of rough. And there will be spoilers, so I'm so sorry. I think for most people, as well as for me, it was the ladies that made the season so special, though. Like, their sisterhood in the house was so fun. I've seen a lot of people wanting, just older women living in a house, reality TV, instead of like caring about the love aspect of it all, because those were the most fun scenes, and I definitely feel that myself. So hold on, I'm trying to see if my slideshow is off. Oh, okay. It's not. It's just, all the scenes kind of look the same, to be honest. But, okay. I made a video talking about episodes like 1 through 7, which is most of the season. The only episodes left after that were the Women Tell All, probably, and which doesn't really count. That's more of a reunion situation. And then Fantasy Suites, and then the finale. That was what was left. So in this video, or this live, I want to talk about the Fantasy Suites a little bit, the finale, and the article, which I already talked about. So in the Fantasy Suites, Gerry was down to 2 people, just Leslie and Teresa. And that episode was very interesting in hindsight with the finale, because it felt so certain that he was gonna pick Leslie. In between the episodes, I was like when I was watching Fantasy Suites, I was like, oh, for sure he is picking Leslie. I mean, he kept saying stuff like this, like, you're the one, you're my girl, blah blah blah, love you, can't live without you, have to have you with morning coffee, and when I go to sleep, all this shit. And I was like, well, it's obviously Leslie, because then he goes on a date with Teresa, and it's super dry, and she's like, are you okay? Something's off. And he just doesn't seem into her, like, at all. And I was like, well, it's obviously gonna be Leslie. Obviously, right? But then in the week between the episodes, I was just like, it's just too obvious. It's too obvious for it to be Leslie. Like, it's never this obvious on reality TV. Or rarely is it that easy. And I saw a lot of fans on the subreddit saying they think it's Teresa. And I was kind of like, yeah, I think it's just too obvious. And there was just this one moment in the Fantasy Suites episode that a lot of people are pointing to as, like, when Gerry switched and changed his mind and all that. And that was when Teresa, well, he asked her, like, what do you do for a living? Because somehow they hadn't talked about that yet, which was very strange. But anyway, so he asked her, and they talked about what she did, and she talked about being a day trader and, like, buying stocks, and she was doing it as a hobby first and then started doing it full time. and really like just made this career for herself that seemed really lucrative and successful. She had tried being a stay-at-home wife and everything, and it wasn't what she wanted, and she found this career, whatever. And it was after that that Gerry like lit up completely on Teresa and very much changed his demeanor on her. And a lot of people now are like, is he a gold digger? I mean, that's obviously at the extreme end. I think that the fandom is kind of in shambles right now, I think, because of that article that came out and everything. It's just it's just funny to think of like, oh, that he got dollar signs in his eyes a little bit. I don't think it's that black and white, and I'm very much approaching the Golden Bachelor at this point like not so black and white in my thinking, because it's hard. Like, this is all produced as like a bachelor fantasy that is so perfect, so polished, that it's, I don't know. The Bachelor is always going to be really, really produced, really heavily produced. Out of all the dating shows, it's probably the most produced. So, I don't know. We can't say. So he was between Teresa and Leslie, Fantasy Suites. I thought it was going to be Leslie, but also something in my heart of hearts was like, it can't be that easy. It just can't. Okay, and so spoiler alert. This is your spoiler alert about who he chose. Have I already said? I hope I haven't already said it. I don't think so. Okay. That was your warning. Sorry, that was kind of quick. He chose not Leslie. He broke her heart. And their breakup was so, first of all, heartbreaking. Second, so, like, confusing. Like, especially at first, because he's just, like, it was very unspoken in their final date. So first, Teresa meets his family and his daughters and granddaughters, and then they have their final date. They seem like in a good spot. Teresa's a little bit unsure, but like still thinks, oh, maybe, like she still feels like she has a chance and everything. And then they redo the same day with Leslie, and she meets his daughters and granddaughters. It all goes fine, sort of. And then in their final date after this, she's professing all her love to him, and he's not really reciprocating. And that's where she realizes and just starts crying, and he realizes she realized, and he's kind of like, sorry, kind of, but it's all very, like, unspoken. And at first I was just like, what happened there? I had to, like, rewind it. It's like, no, it was unspoken. And he left, and she's like, do you have anything you want to tell me? And he was like, no. And he obviously did, but I think he just needed a moment. And so he went outside, and then luckily came back. Because at first I was like, oh my God, what a coward. Like, just letting her assume he's breaking up with her, but never actually saying we're breaking up or anything. Because he wasn't supposed to. I think the issue with that conversation was that he was supposed to not give it away to Leslie that he wasn't going to choose her this early. He was supposed to wait till they're on the platform where he proposes, and they bring them out in the dress, and he tells one of them no and then proposes to another one. Later when we see Teresa at a platform, she thought she was getting broken up with, because that's where the breakup is supposed to happen. But Leslie being intuitive, Gerry being not good at hiding it, they realized it sooner, but I think he was scared, like, to say it and like go against probably what producers told him to like not give it away yet to Leslie. He was supposed to just leave this date like normal. Like he still had the decision to make and she still had a chance and everything. But they just couldn't hide it because he was off all day, and Leslie says later that she noticed from the very beginning he was off all day, like weird and distant, and it was assuming like he had made his decision on Teresa. So luckily he does leave and then realizes like, okay, I should go talk to her, and probably producers were like, it's obvious at this point, just go do the breakup. It's okay, you're allowed. I just get the vibe he was like, oh my god, producers are gonna yell at me, I can't say it out loud, so I'm just gonna cry here and imply it. But he comes back and they actually talk, and I really appreciated Leslie here. I mean, sorry for this image, she probably would not appreciate me putting this, but she's awesome because she like let him have it a little bit at this breakup, and it was very satisfying because for real, Gerry like led her on so bad the whole season, and producers led us on Leslie because it felt like every episode, the opening teaser little clip at the beginning was Leslie, and I just feel like it was kind of like a winner's edit of some sort. Something, but I think in hindsight it was the producers just like building up this journey for Leslie for then the fall to hurt us the most. I mean, you can only figure that stuff out later on, but anyway, so she let him have it and stood her ground and was like, you made it sound like you chose me. Everything you said the other night was a lie. Because at their overnight, apparently he made her so confident that she like wasn't worried about the date with Teresa. She bought her dress. She wrote her vows because he made her so certain that it was going to be her. And the craziest thing is, and I agree with her 100%, like, Queen Leslie for the win. She's like, it didn't even take you a day. It took you like 12 hours to change your mind after like all these promises you had made to be. Like, for real. And from the beginning, I just felt like Gerry, like, I enjoyed him. I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, I saw it a mile away, he's a scumbag, all these things. Secretly, he's a jerk. I mean, I bought into him enough. I was like, he seems like a nice old guy. But to every woman, he would tell them, like, he would move so fast with them. He would be like, I love you. And Callie saying, he told her and Faith he loved them long before Teresa. Exactly. He was telling Faith he loved her. I feel like did he tell Ellen he loved, he was telling a lot of people he loved them or was falling for them or was whatever. And every time there was one of those episodes, I was like, he literally told all of them the same thing. What is he gonna do? And that's why every elimination, especially later on, like Ellen, Faith, and Leslie, they hurt so bad because it's like he really made it seem like they could be the one. And I don't understand Gerry's like just over promising to everybody and just being caught up in the moment for everybody. And she's like, at least thank you for breaking up with me now. I don't think it was his choice. He just gave it away. But she's like, I'd rather now than when I'm wearing the $60,000 dress, which slay, that's an expensive ass dress with the diamond earrings and the heels. And she'd rather like the breakup have happened at this point rather than like getting all dolled up to this level and being embarrassed like all glammed up. It must be so. I feel like, yeah, it's extra embarrassing to be so glammed up and get dumped compared to, at least, I mean, it still sucks. It's still in front of the cameras. And she says, like, she also has this past where, you know, she feels like her partners haven't chosen her, and she just feels like a really broken or like hard to, I don't know. She just has this past of like unsuccessful relationships. If that, I feel like that's how she described it. And she she was extra sad because, you know, she wasn't chosen yet again, but this time it's like in front of the whole world. And like that's super heartbreaking and so true. It's the unfortunate thing with reality TV. I mean, it's why we like it, why it's entertaining, because it's real people experiencing real emotions, but at the cost of their own sanity, you know? And we see Leslie, so the finale is this kind of dual, you see the footage of the actual finale, and it's intercut with like live studio audience, reunion style after the rose, what they call it, or something like that. After the final rose, girl, I don't know the Bachelor culture so well, but something like that. And Leslie was there, and at least, you know, the audience was very behind her, and they confronted each other. This was like probably the first time they were seeing each other post Costa Rica. With the live audience though, like they show the footage like normal of the finale, but occasionally the audience will like laugh or gasp or something, and you hear that, and the laugh track parts were throwing me off so much. But yeah, I think for me, the article stuff that like exposes maybe some shady things about Gerry, like, yeah, that impacts my idea of him. But with reality TV, I try to focus more on like what's on the show, to judge the characters, because it's really hard to know these people, and how they are in real life or anything. But I really think it was shady how Gerry led on Leslie so much, and the other women like Faith, because I was just so sure, and he was my girl, my girl, my girl all the time, and she was really betrayed, and I think she spoke for like the audience too, being betrayed, because it really kind of came out of nowhere. And I did like too when she confronted him, like she kept it all on him, and she was always very like, I have nothing bad to say about Teresa. She's a friend. Like, it's not against Teresa. She was rightfully putting all the blame on him because it's his fault. I mean, it's just a small thing, but it just, I feel like in general these ladies were more classy, aside from like Kathy picking fights, but that was funny too. I don't mind the little picking of a fight and stirring the pot. He does, like, in this scene, he, like, apologizes to her. He keeps, like, Bachelor talking in circles, like, nothing very real. He never gives her, like, a reason why they broke up. She keeps asking, like, what went wrong, and he's like, nothing went wrong. I just found someone with a lot of money. No, he didn't say that. I just found someone else that's better, whatever. And she doesn't accept his apology. And I was cool with it. I was like, good for you, girl. There's something kind of like, that I'm like, and maybe y'all can give me y'all's opinion on this one, but it does kind of feel like women like Leslie and Faith, they're kind of like women that take no bullshit. And maybe he worries about, like, their fiery, independent spirits compared to Teresa, who seems like she might be okay with taking a little bit of bullshit, because she's a little, like, nicer. But, I mean, I don't really know these women and how they are in any kind of real environment, but, like, I don't know. I just kind of get the vibe that Leslie, maybe he worried she was too, like, independent, too, like, if he did something bad or questionable, I mean, like, she would leave him quicker than Teresa. I think that's kind of along the lines what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so Gerry proposes to Teresa, and she's thrilled about it. I was also so annoyed, like, he, like, faked her out, made it seem like he wasn't gonna choose her and was breaking up. He was like, "You're the woman I can't live with." Wait, oh my god, it's such a, like, twisting of words. It's like, you're you're not the woman I can live with. You're not the woman I can live with. And she's like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'll go," basically. And then he's like, "You're the woman I can't live without," or something of the sort. And that was, like, his line the whole time, but he really let that pause linger. And I felt so bad for Teresa. She was like, I'm done, I guess. Where's the car?" And he's like, "JK, proposing." And she's very happy. They seem very happy together at the whatever after Rose thing. And it was when they were talking in the interview, in the after thing, this is the only, like, clue, like, direct thing we got about why he chose Teresa over Leslie. And it was kind of shady at Leslie, because he was like, "Well, on the overnight date with Teresa, I realized I had a lot of realizations about her. And, for example, I know she can maintain and nurture a relationship because she was married to her high school sweetheart for 40-something years." And that just felt like pretty directly shady at Leslie, because Leslie had a couple of marriages, and was not a widower compared to Teresa, who was. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Her story mirrors his so much that, like, I can see why that similarity is a draw. But it felt a little bit, like, pointed as well, at Leslie. Just kind of implying, like, maybe Leslie could not do these things. Shady. But they are very happy together. What did y'all think about the finale? Please, if you're here, let me know. Because I'm still kind of shook by it all. And were y'all getting suspicious about how obvious the edit was for Leslie, that you were like, maybe it's Teresa, or maybe, like, the stock scene clued you in? Because I was really like, I think it's Leslie, but just something kept telling me, like, it's just too easy. Like, I was buying into it, but I was like, it's a little easy. And I always get such whiplash with The Bachelor, because it's like, you have these confrontation moments, where they're, like, talking about the heartbreak and this hard stuff, and then, like, the segment immediately after is like, yay, we're together, we're engaged, as if this isn't, like, the same guy going through, like, this whiplash of emotions. Um, just kind of, it's just a Bachelor thing though. That's not Golden Bachelor specific. One thing in hindsight I wrote down that I was like, this should have been the hint that it was Teresa all along. Because the part, like, their strongest moment was, like, at the very beginning with that diner date. Whereas Leslie and Faye kind of had stronger moments all throughout. My boyfriend Cameron was watching the season with me, and he thought, like, Leslie was the winner as soon as she did, like, the striptease number. It wasn't a striptease, but, like, that, he was like, he's gonna remember that, and he's gonna choose her for that. But no, he was wrong. I mean, a lot of us were duped. But anyway, so their strong moment was the first one-on-one date, which was the diner thing with the flash mob. And, like, now I'm like, we should have known it was Teresa because she got the copyrighted big song. They played Don't Stop Believin' on that date, and I was like, that cost a lot of money. That was the clue that she was the one, because she's worth Don't Stop Believin', and the royalty rights for that. But it clued me in because at the proposal somewhere, he's like, he mentioned, he says, like, don't stop believing, like, somewhere in the proposal. So that's where I was like, that was the clue, that was the key. We missed it. And then they announced that they are televising their wedding. They kept teasing this big announcement, and I was just like, oh, maybe it's Golden Bachelorette. And it wasn't. It was this golden wedding, Thursday, January 4th, which I will be watching, but I was not expecting it. And they were really hyping up this announcement as like, oh, this is gonna, they said it was gonna change Bachelor Nation forever. Like, what? How? How is this changing Bachelor? I mean, is this the first wedding special? I doubt it. In Bachelor history? I guess it's the first golden wedding, but it's first season. I don't know. It's just goofy. They just say whatever to keep you watching after the decision happens, which is what everyone's here for. But yeah, that was the golden wedding. The golden couple. We saw a preview of The Bachelor Joey. Sorry, I do not care. He's a tennis player of some sort. But I mean, I wish them the best. I'm not trying to be petty. But yeah, there's not much else to say about the finale. I guess mostly it's all just revelations, the reveal, the decision. And I think the most compelling part of it all was the Leslie stuff and how much of a 180 it was from, like, the rest of the season. Because, like, I did not see that coming. I didn't. But anyway, okay. Let's get into the tea. Okay. Have y'all heard of this? I don't know. Let me know. Put a 1 in the chat if you heard about it. This week, a couple days ago, there was this Hollywood Reporter article about kind of an expose on a past relationship that Gerry had. And it's kind of like a hit piece, but the Hollywood Reporter is a credible news source as far as I know. So there is credibility to that potentially, but there's some kind of damning moments. I mean, to me, it's mostly like, you know, they framed this guy as like a perfect, wholesome man who had no love for anyone other than his wife of 40, 50 years, however long, his high school sweetheart. He, you know, he's handsome, he's nice, and he has money, or he's well established. It's a fantasy, and The Bachelor is very much about selling this fantasy. And this article kind of exposes more like, well, he's more of just a regular guy that has skeletons in his closet, and some of it is pretty damning, but it's also like, I try not to be so black and white thinking of it, especially because we didn't see it on the show, so it kind of, once it bleeds into real life, it becomes more like nuanced, and it's hard to know, but anyway, so let's read the article together, or at least most of it. I'll skip if there's anything. This is the article, actually, that I can move around. Secret girlfriends, a juiced up resume, and the selling of a septuagenarian. What the hell? Hello? What? I've assumed that's like, does this mean 70-year-old? I'm assuming. Stud. The Secret History of America's Senior Sweetheart, Gerry Turner. The finale did not address this article. They didn't address it officially in any capacity. I'll go through, there's like kind of a response article by people where they downplay a lot of the stuff. And I think, let's read it first, and then I'll go into like the conversations around it. Can y'all see? Okay. By sharp contrast to the young cads with six-pack abs previously populating the hot tubs on ABC's The Bachelor, Gerry Turner, the handsome 72-year-old star of the Golden Bachelor spinoff, brought fresh air and life to the franchise with something rarely seen on reality TV: genuine depth and sensitivity. Still a grieving widower, Gerry, pronounced Gary, cried real tears during the opening episode when he recounted the story of Tony, his beloved wife of 43 years, who tragically died of an infection just 1 month after their move to their dream retirement house on Big Long, Indiana, whatever. It was a dramatic backstory, but our Bachelor was able to switch gears and interact easily with the attractive and equally senior female contestants on the show. In doing so, he displayed such emotional awareness, authenticity, and willingness to listen that his whole persona seemed to have been cooked up in some perfect man lab. Yeah. Welcome to reality TV. He definitely was cooked up. The ladies, as they're called on the program, quickly started to swoon and declare love for him, and let's face it, we all fell for Gerry. Evidently, the world also saw that magic while watching Golden Gerry and the Women. The premiere earned the highest multi-platform rating for the Bachelor franchise since 2021. That's not that long, but still, with a combined 13.9 million viewers. It also set a streaming record as ABC's most watched episode ever on Hulu after 30. ABC's most watched episode of an unscripted series on Hulu. Wow. That's something. The idea that this guileless man was reawakening before our eyes to contemporary life. I mean, I haven't dated in 45 years. He told Entertainment Tonight. So that's kind of the key. Made him a hugely compelling character. He seemed so wholesome and almost preacherly that on The Daily Show, comedian Louis Black joked, "This guy is like if the word G. Willikers became a person." That's kind of a good one. Good for them. But even in this golden variation, this at the bottom, a reality show, a genre mostly known for its frequent disconnection with reality, especially on The Bachelor. Recently, Turner appeared on Justin Long's Life is Short podcast and told the host about the elaborate screening process he was subjected to. "I had to send my fingerprints to the FBI. There were numerous background tests. There was a psychological evaluation that was like 360 questions and then another hour of interview. Vetting process is ridiculously thorough." I think with this paragraph, they're trying to say, like, any lies Gerry may be pushing are, like, production knows about it if he's lying about things, I think. So it's not all Gerry, and I agree. We'll get to that. But despite the vetting, The Hollywood Reporter has discovered several inconsistencies regarding both his work history and recent romantic entanglements that contradict the received narrative. Whether they never learned about these discrepancies or ignored them to sell a buffed up, shinier storyline for greater impact, it's obviously the second thing. They did not never learn about these discrepancies. They ignored it for a better storyline. Producers presented an incomplete and misleading image of Turner, which The Bachelor helped perpetuate in personal remarks. He's identified in chirons throughout the show as a retired restaurateur, which is a fancy way to say he owns or owned a restaurant, with all of its attendant fun and glamour. But according to his profile on LinkedIn, Gerry last owned a restaurant in 1985 when he sold his Mr. Quick hamburger drive-in franchise in Iowa, where he'd worked his way up from high school. After that, he held various sales and management positions in the meat business, again, per his LinkedIn resume, which does not list an end date for this employment. That does not match up with the idea pushed on the show that he retired at the young age of 55, which would have been in 2006. Never mentioned are his years of pickup post-retirement work, like installing hot tubs at Gannon pools. He then worked as a maintenance man at the Vera French Mental Health Center, also in the Davenport area, as verified by colleagues who spoke highly of him. So, the job stuff to me, I don't find very scandalous. Am I the only one? I don't know. I don't really care that much. I do think retired restaurateur just sounds more fun as a snazzy title on reality TV, and like hot tub maintenance installer does not. And I don't see that as like a big deception. The only thing is, like, maybe retired restaurateur does make him sound more wealthy, and I think that's where people have a problem. Especially with tying in the whole, like, after finding out about Teresa's finances, him being very all in on her, it just kind of seems suspicious, but not like, we don't have 100% evidence that those are connected either. So the job stuff, to me, I didn't feel super betrayed, but some people did. The Reddit, I'm telling y'all, is people are fighting there. They just have, like, a downfall of someone, especially if they presented themselves as wholesome. And, I mean, he did some shady things, but he did shady things on the show. He was telling every girl he loved her. Okay, so then the romance stuff starts. It was in the latter capacity, so at his job as a maintenance man at the mental health center. It was in the latter capacity that he would come to know a woman, we'll call her Carolyn, with whom he would go on to have a nearly 3-year relationship, beginning, innocently enough, a month after his wife's death. The romance stuff is a bit more damning than the job stuff to me. Attractive and 14 years his junior. She was a staff accountant at the mental health center. They dated for 10 months and then lived together for 1 year and 9 months. This account is drawn from interviews with Carolyn, who requested not to be named to protect her privacy, as well as friends she confided in at the time and text messages with Gerry, among other documents. So this Carolyn provided the receipts to the publication, in theory. So the article does seem pretty credible. The fact that he started dating is not unexpected. He was single and a widower, after all, not cheating. But his amorous activity certainly didn't align with how he regularly yanked viewers' heartstrings with on-air announcements about his lack of a love life since his wife died. So on the show, he was saying, like, I haven't dated since my wife died, the only woman I ever loved, my wife, you know. He later touchingly admitted to one pre-show kiss on the Bachelor Happy Hour podcast. So he said, like, all he'd done after his wife is kiss once, which was a lie, according to this article. Carolyn apparently wasn't the only relationship he and the Golden Bachelor producers failed to mention. This fall, a reporter from the U.S. Sun reached out to Heather, a waitress at the Shady Nook, a bar and restaurant located on the lake in Hudson, Indiana, next door to Gerry's new lake house, so close that he'd essentially made it his bachelor clubhouse. Lowercase bachelor clubhouse. Heather Lanning Adams, who no longer works at the Shady Nook, considered Gerry her friend. She told the reporter that in the past 6 years, he dated a couple of women. They weren't all long-term, but they weren't short-term either. He was with a couple of women for a decent amount of time, but it just didn't work out. Carolyn, meanwhile, didn't want the years of her life as the Golden Bachelor's girlfriend to become national news fodder. But neither did she want to be the invisible woman, whispered about in Davenport as the gullible gal Gerry duped and then dumped. I just can't believe this happened to my girlfriend, said Susan McCreary, a close friend of Carolyn's. I feel like naming a close friend of her will probably dox her name somehow, but I'm not going to be the one searching. When Carolyn and Gerry first started dating in September 2017, my husband and I took them to an Iowa football game, Susan said. So Susan took them to a game. I thought, this guy's legit. This guy's really good guy for her. McCreary recalled watching the show and hearing Gerry say that line about not having been kissed in 6 years. And I'm like, what? He's got to know that people are paying attention to this show. I'm just flabbergasted. ABC and Turner declined to comment for this article. At first, Carolyn tried to laugh it off, but then The Golden Bachelor became a ratings bonanza. You think she got a good offer from The Hollywood Reporter? Because that'd be nice. The show was suddenly the talk of pop culture, considered a breakthrough for its positive portrayal of sexually active seniors. That's one way to put it. It bothered Carolyn that her ex was foisting lines and moves on the Bachelorettes that he had used to seduce her. Damn, I go to bed at night thinking of you and wake up in the morning thinking of you. He had texted to Carolyn on September 2nd, 2017, less than 3 months after Tony's death, in a message viewed by The Hollywood Reporter. I'm sure he said this to Leslie, right? I don't remember, but all these kinds of lines he was saying to Leslie. But less than 3 months? I mean, we'll talk about it. He would go on to say something similar to Leslie, a fitness instructor, dancer, ex-squeeze, a prince who became one of Gerry's 2 finalists. During one of their intense sessions in Costa Rica, he told her, I have to have you with my morning coffee. I have to have you when I go to bed at night. We talked about that scene. Carolyn became friends with Gerry at the mental health community, where he was beloved by coworkers and patients. That's another one that I'm like, that's why I don't care that much about the job stuff, unless there's shady money stuff happening. He was beloved by coworkers and patients. So even if his job was lied about on the show, they liked working with him. Apparently he was great at conflict resolution. Carolyn and staff threw him a retirement party when he left to move to the lake with Tony. Then we get the shocking news that Tony passed away, so most everyone at the office went to the visitation in July. Then in August, I got a phone call from Gerry, she said. I was so shocked to hear from him. On that call, Gerry said he was coming to Davenport to work on his wife's estate and asked whether Carolyn could help him with donating Tony's corporate wardrobe to dress for success. She was happy to help. Gerry took her to dinner after as a thank you. The idea that I'd go out with a recent widower just mortifies me, Carolyn now says. I just really didn't see it. Until I went back and looked at my text messages, I never realized Gerry's texts had turned hot and heavy so relatively soon. Indeed, an eager and self-deprecating Gerry joked while texting. I got lucky when you first said you would go to dinner with me 2 weeks ago. I mean, how often does an old geezer get the beautiful girl? He was flirting. Soon thereafter, Gerry texted, "You are the right woman for me. No need to look further." He was like practicing for The Bachelor. Honestly, maybe the producers saw these texts and were like, "You're ready." This is how bachelors talk. Gerry persisted in asking her to move in with him at the lake house for almost a year before Carolyn would even consider it. Eventually, Carolyn fell hard, driving 5 hours to spend what she remembers as blissful weekends with Gerry at his dream house. After a year of such weekends, she finally agreed to move in with him, but before she gave up her settled life in Iowa, she says Gerry promised her elderly mom that he intended to eventually marry Carolyn. Again, he did this to 3 women on The Bachelor, basically. She tells The Hollywood Reporter that he suggested she quit her job and get a new one near the lake house. This proved impossible since it's in the middle of nowhere, as she put it. But she did get an accounting job with a company in Fort Wayne, nearly an hour's commute each way. She arrived the last weekend of July 2018. Hollywood Reporter has viewed mail that was sent to her at this house. Background check listed his address as her primary residence for that period. So the Hollywood Reporter, did their journalistic duties and seems to have vetted the information as best they could. Then the surprises started. Gerry told Carolyn that her share of the expenses would be about $1,000 a month, which Carolyn negotiated down to $850. This is where the finance stuff starts. They would go Dutch on all meals except on special occasions, she remembers him telling her. At restaurants, Carolyn paid her half in advance, and then when the check came, Gerry paid the whole tab, like the big man. So he was pretending. I'm fine with splitting meals. I know that was a contentious topic in Love is Blind season 5, but I'm fine with it personally in my relationships. But we don't need the performance of he's paying in the moment. That's the weird part to me. They agreed. Gerry was fastidious about cleanliness in the mornings. She says Gerry insisted that Carolyn make the bed before she came upstairs for breakfast. I don't think this is the worst. I mean, he should make the bed too, though. But we don't really have his side on the stuff that's not proven by the receipts Hollywood Reporter saw. So it's important to keep that in mind too. Carolyn's big long lake ideal with Gerry was about to end. She was packing for Gerry's high school reunion, set to take place in October 2019. "I am not taking you to the reunion looking like that," Carolyn recalls him saying as he pointed to her body. She'd put on 10 pounds from stress, but certainly wasn't fat. The disinvitation led to the breakup. So that is very serious. If it's true, it's this is a he said, she said situation at that point. And also I don't think his wife was a super thin woman. So it's kind of confusing to me, but if it's really true, then that's a very scummy thing to say. This invitation led to the breakup. Gerry told Carolyn to be out by January 1st, 2020. He volunteered to cover the cost of her U-Haul as long as she paid the vendor and he reimbursed her. She spent her first packing day alone while Gerry was out. She says she was so frazzled that she fell down the stairs, requiring a trip to the ER and foot surgery the following day, as confirmed by a hospital bill, viewed by the Hollywood Reporter, proof of the fall. Gerry arrived home that night and, as Carolyn recalls, accused her of using the fall as an excuse to prolong her stay and suggested that she was planning to sue him for causing the injury. Whew, mess. In the end, she says he refused to allow Carolyn to stay in their love nest during the final week of the 2 weeks' notice she was required to give her boss before leaving her job. He told her to go to a hotel. It was the dead of winter, and Carolyn struggled to get to her car in her walker, Gerry at her side, as she recalls. She might have been any one of those roseless golden bachelorettes, told by the suddenly somber Jesse Palmer to take a minute and gather your things. Yeah, a lot of these stories sound so like he was playing The Bachelor in real life, but which is fucked up. But isn't it weird? It's fucked up, but it's like it's not fucked up when we are entertained by it on a TV show. Like, in theory. I really wish that this would have worked out. She remembers him telling her, "Call me when you get to your hotel so I know you made it safe." Not totally heartless, I guess, is the point of including this line. Carolyn shared her account of the tumultuous breakup with friends and relatives who confirmed this to The Hollywood Reporter. Okay, so, like, we got some eyewitness accounts as evidence of this. 3 years have since passed. In the sneak peek for the program's finale, Gerry is sound sobbing. He'd chosen to spend... Okay. Show stuff. By now, the gold dust was falling away. Gerry was fitting more into the typical bachelor profile. He appears distraught on camera. The only time I felt this bad in my life when my wife died, and this is a goddamn close second. That was like the teaser every single episode. Later, he blubbered, "I took a really good person and broke her heart." True, but for Gerry, that should be getting easier with experience. Quite the hit piece, for sure. And I think people are most upset by, like, the lying of how he was presented, that he hadn't dated since his wife passed away, like, not even kissed, but maybe one kiss, and now they are backtracking a little bit on that stuff, but the damage is done, and people feel betrayed by how he was presented, which is fair. I don't think I'm as, like, betrayed, because for me, this didn't seem at all surprising for a reality show, especially The Bachelor. The Bachelor sells a fantasy, y'all, like, we know. It's all a fairy tale, and that's their thing, their approach to, like, the dating reality genre. But for me, I'm more just like the more bad parts of the story kind of make him seem like more controlling, and also like how quick he moved on. I mean, it's kind of hard because I don't know or have encountered many widowers in my day, but I've seen a lot of people be like, you'd be surprised how many widowers move on quickly because they just want to be taken care of again, especially like someone of his generation, which not everyone's like that, but like boomer men, you know. I don't know, maybe he wasn't used to doing half the chores. Maybe Tony contributed financially a lot, and he needed like a partner financially. I don't know. It's hard to know exactly, but it's a little strange how fast it was. She was 14 years younger than him. At those ages, is it that weird at that point? I'm not sure, but it's still way more of an age gap than the ladies on the Golden Bachelor, which I think is what the article was trying to say. But yeah, I don't feel betrayed by the lying part of it. I feel more like, if this is true, then he has his issues. And no one is that wholesome, I guess. Maybe someone is, but not him. He was not that wholesome. I guess I just wasn't that surprised that he's not as wholesome as he presented, even though I was like, you know, just on the surface, just buying into it, because I wasn't, you know, I don't know. I'm just talking in circles. Okay, so there was kind of like a response, not really directly or anything, doesn't mention the article, but it was like a People article. It came out like a few hours after the Hollywood Reporter one. And it kind of helped. It's clearly damage control, just trying to like backtrack on some of the lies about his dating history. So let's read through this one. Probably not all of it, but just some of it, because it's a lot more fluffy than like all the details of the other one. Golden Bachelor Gerry Turner reflects on a few failures trying to date after his wife's death. Exclusive. The reality star thought he'd be ready for a new relationship 1 year after his wife Tony's death, 2017, but tells people that absolutely wasn't the case. Okay, dating can be challenging at any age. He tried online dating to little success after the death of his wife. I've dated a number of times since Tony passed, more recently than back closer to when she's passed. So backtracking a bit on some of the things we saw on the show. Dated a number of times. That's kind of new. And then, but pushing back on some of the allegations of how soon it was and saying dated more recently than closer when she passed. That seems like a subtle denying of like the 1 month later relationship. For one reason or another, the attempts didn't work out. I could give you a wide range of reasons, but it really doesn't matter. Of course it doesn't. Because it was maybe shady stuff. The retired restaurateur, okay, reinforcing the title they gave him. That isn't necessarily as true. He figured he'd be ready for a new relationship after 1 year of grieving the death of his high school sweetheart and tried dating at that point. But every time I thought I was ready, I realized I wasn't. Somehow I got it in my head that if you grieve for a year, that at the end of the year you should be okay. It absolutely wasn't the case. I feel like that's just saying like maybe that the Carolyn relationship started when she moved in. I think that's what this is trying to rewrite the narrative on. Because that kind of, the timeline makes more sense. They started dating a month after her death, and then she moved in like a year after her death. Sorry, I'm just looking. Yeah, so Gerry persisted in asking her to move in with him for almost a year before she would consider it. This is like detective work, I swear. Okay. After about 3 years, Turner sought the help of a grief counselor. That shows he's worked on himself. Every line is like, there's a subtle, like, message underneath the actual words, I feel like. It was a difficult time, he said. I finally decided it's time for me to see a grief counselor because I wasn't sure I was on track. It could be a way to like, this is a really subtle way to say like, oh, maybe I was being shitty, but I realized and got help. So that people don't think he's like that anymore. I wasn't sure I was on track. I wasn't sure I was mending properly. It was probably a life changer for me because I remember having 2 sessions with the counselor and he goes, you're fine. You just got to give yourself credit for being okay. Yeah, I think it's just showing, like, he got help and he's better now. If you believe this article, with this article, you can see he changed from that period. And it was grief that was making him act out. I mean, could have been, I don't know. People are just toxic. People are very complex. Eventually, Turner said he became more optimistic about dating, and it helped, even though it didn't lead to any lasting relationships. He did make a good friend out of his dating attempts. showing, oh, he's on good terms with one of the women. It might not be Carolyn, but there's a woman out there. I've still developed one very good friendship with one woman that lives about 40 miles away in Michigan. We realized that romantic side of the relationship just wasn't going to work, but we've seemed to maintain a nice friendship, so I feel good about that. If nothing else, some of the failures were offset by that one nice success. It's just all trying to show him in a good light. Like, oh, he was friends with someone, he became friends with someone he dated, so he's a good guy, y'all. Discouraged after putting himself back out there, Turner felt like he would never find love again. One failure led to another for a variety of reasons. They keep saying, a variety of reasons that don't matter. It might be that I'm toxic or want her to make the bed every morning. It was actually about 3.5 or 4 years, I just finally realized that, okay, I'm happy with myself. If I'm going to be alone, I can deal with it. I mean, there was a good amount of time there that he didn't live with anyone, so I assume he learned to do stuff for himself or financially be okay with that. I believe there are times and periods where he was on his own. You know, like, let's give him that. I don't know. Okay, Eve of the Bachelor finale. He teased it worked out for him. I headed towards the end. I was really in conflict about several of the women. As very specific events occurred, it really helped me gain clarity on what I wanted to do. When asked if he feels happy at this point in life, Turner simply said, I am, yes. So he's happy now. So yeah, this was basically the response in a very indirect, subtle way, I'm assuming. And yeah, I'd be curious to hear what y'all think of all this. Did you fully buy the persona? I mean, I feel like I bought the persona, but I wasn't, like, putting all my money on it either. Like, I wasn't too shocked. Or, I don't know. It's just very common for producers to, like, brand someone very, like, in a black and white way. And people are way more complicated than that. So I think, especially people at this age, like, the life they've lived, there could be anything in his past that we have no idea about, because it's a long time, 70-something years. But yeah, let me know in the chat or in the comments what you think about that article. Do you think him and Teresa are gonna be good? I mean, you know, in theory, they have a contract. They have a televised wedding planned, so they should be making it to January and should be getting married, which is more than any typical bachelor couple. Usually they get engaged and then break it off a year later. I feel like very few bachelor couples end up actually married. So it is kind of a big deal. But like they said, they don't have that much time left, so they gotta keep it moving. It did seem like they don't live together right now. They just talk on the phone every day. That's what she said in the interview. So I mean, they've been managing this secret long distance relationship. It'll be interesting to see how they handle, like, an actual living together situation. Are they moving? That's another thing I don't like about The Bachelor, that I had forgotten about. Like, it's from all over the country, the contestants, so it makes logistics so weird. Let me go over here. It makes the logistics of moving in together and stuff, and especially people like this that have, like, long established lives and communities and families, like, who's gonna move where and why, and I just feel like it's a big loss for either of them to leave their respective communities to get married to someone they don't know for that long. But they seem happy. They seem to really like each other's families. And I wish them the best. I hope Gerry has turned a new leaf if he was being shady to Carolyn. It seems highly likely based on the receipts and the Hollywood Reporter. They're credible, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, hopefully he's grown and has moved past the grief and treats Teresa nicely. I think Leslie, she's fierce, and she will hopefully find a really great man, because Gerry really missed out with her. She dated Prince. Like, she can find someone even better, way better than Gerry, I think. And I hope the best for her. I was hoping for Golden Bachelorette announcement. We did not get it. But I would love to hear again if y'all have thoughts on who the Golden Bachelorette. I think I'm really in love with Susan. I just want her on my TV no matter what. But I would love I love any of them for Golden Bachelorette. Edith, I loved Edith. She was just like my fave. Gone too soon. But Faith, Leslie, Ellen, they would all be really fun Golden Bachelorettes, and that'd be cute. And I'd worry about some of the men though, because just that generation, sorry, I don't trust them very much. I don't know many nice men of those generations in my own life, but they must be out there, I'm sure. I love the women. Good for the women. But yeah, that was the Golden Bachelor finale. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What a journey. It was fun though. I loved just the representation. I hope it opens the door, like I said in my video, like more older people in reality TV. They're still going to be toxic. There's still going to be drama. There's still going to be mess. And, audiences love that. That translates to ratings. So it's fine. It's fine if they're a little toxic sometimes, They're toxic when they're young too, but kind of more annoying. So, yeah, I was shook is the moral of the story. And I hope you'll have a really great weekend. Again, streaming right here Monday night, talking about Spotify. Callie says, I feel like they didn't plan for it to be such a success, but Golden Bachelorette is definitely going to happen. I hope so. I think so too. I really do think TV executives don't bank on older people being successful. They think people don't want to see old people. They want to see hot young people and want to look like them, and then we can sell them products that make them look like them. But no, a lot of people resonated and liked it more than the regular Bachelor. I was a little surprised though when I put up my video, and I thought more people would be interested, which it's weird, but like I like to cover a lot of different kind of media, and my most viewed videos are dating reality TV, mostly Love is Blind, which is more niche than The Bachelor, but I thought, the Love is Blind audience will love the Golden Bachelor content, and then my video did not get that many views, and I was like, maybe less people are watching than I thought. I just thought because like a lot of my friends are watching it, and I'm watching it. A lot of people I know in real life are watching it, but it might just be like the people I surround myself with and y'all that watch too. And maybe the masses aren't buying into it as much, but I hope not. I think it's still got the numbers behind it, the ratings, the everything. So I think Golden Bachelorette is a good bet, and maybe at the wedding special they'll announce Golden Bachelorette. I think that'd be a great time. They mentioned I think the women will be there at the wedding, which is weird because they're the exes. But we'll see. Maybe if I'm live streaming around the time of the wedding, I'll live stream a little bit of something. If the wedding's anything interesting. We'll see. January 4th, but the golden wedding. But yeah, hope you have a good night. I'll be here Monday night talking about my Spotify Wrapped and music of 2023. I want to know, like, what city y'all got for your Spotify Wrapped. Save it for that stream, but what cities y'all got, what tarot card, they did like a tarot card thing, your top songs, top artists. I'm very curious what other people's artists are. It might just be me here, and if so, I'll talk about Ava Max for an hour, but you know. Oh, sorry, my laugh is too loud for the mic. But yeah, I'll see y'all Monday, and then I'll put out a schedule about topics for next Friday and the other weeks following. I'm still, cooking up topics. I want to do a House of Villains finale stream, but that show is moving so slow. There's going to be like 1 million episodes because they take 2 episodes to eliminate a person. So that's a lot of weeks. So House of Villains stream coming in a few months probably, or at some point. But yeah, that's all I have for today. And thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for chatting it up, Callie, in the chat. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.